Well, Luther was struggling for some time with the question of justification and how he as a sinner could stand before an awesomely holy God. And he tried this process of internal renewal and was deeply, deeply serious about it. He wanted to be transformed, to be just in himself and so to merit heaven. But he knew the more he was doing, the more monastic duties he was performing, the more pilgrimages and so on, the more he was doing, the more he said, I felt I was a sinner before God with an extremely disturbed conscience. And interestingly, because he was seeing God as a moral slave driver who's forcing him to earn his favor, he said, I had come to hate God, not love him. So all his efforts to try to earn God's favor were actually driving him away from being able to fulfill the law, love the Lord your God. He was hating him. And he began wrestling with a number of texts of Scripture, but particularly Romans 1, that phrase, the righteousness of God. And what Luther didn't understand was how Paul speaks of the righteousness of God as gospel, good news. But Luther thought, how can that be good news? If God is righteous, I'm not righteous, which means his righteousness is only judgment for me. So that's not good news at all. And it only drove him to hate God more. But he said, he kept battling with this text and said, at last I came to understand by the context that the righteousness of God is a gift that God gives through faith. And he said, at this point, I felt I was altogether born again and had entered paradise itself through open gates. And his understanding was now, through Romans 1, that justification is not an internal process of being transformed. Justification is a divine declaration that a sinner is clothed with the righteousness of Christ and not their own righteousness. This was Romans 4:5. He saw God as a God who justifies the wicked. It's not that the wicked person has made themselves just. It is that God takes the wicked person and clothes them with the righteousness of Christ. So the main difference is, in medieval Roman Catholicism, justification is an internal process of becoming more loving and holy. As Luther saw it, justification is a gift whereby God declares a failure, a sinner, clothed with the righteousness of Christ, and therefore boldly able to approach him despite all their sin.